Welcome into MIAA Saturday. I'm Calvin Silvers.
And I'm Harry Loomis. Week 1 is already in the books, and there's a lot to get into already in Week 2.
Especially with the 2 games on Thursday night.
Home opener for the Griffins taking on Fort Hays State, both looking for their first win of the year. First drive for the Tigers, Adrian Soto punches it in from a yard out, and the Tigers get the early lead, 7-0. Griffins with the ball now in the Wildcat formation. Shen Butler Lawson Jr. puts his head down, finds a hole, and breaks through to tie things up at 7 with the point after. After an interception, Griffins march back down the field and add a field goal. Cody Watson buries it, 10-7. Second quarter now, Hayes at the 6. Chance Fuller finds Hunter Budke wide open to take a 14-10 lead. Second half, 17-10 Hayes. Fuller's pass gets tipped by Sam Webb and intercepted by Kobe Cummins. He runs it 66 yards to the house. We're tied at 17-all. Hayes, though, not phased, continuing to move the ball. Fuller finds Soto at the 50, he breaks a tackle and goes all the way for a 67-yard touchdown as the Tigers take the lead right back. But the Griffins defense disrupts one more of the Tigers' offensive drives. First play, Tristan Tucker bobbles the pass, gets hit, and the ball comes out. Dominic Chapa recovers it and heads up blocking to run it in and tie the game again. After another pick, Griffins ball in the 19, Lawson gets the ball, huge seam to the right, he takes advantage and puts the Griffins on top 31-24. Next drive for the Griffins, Anthony Vespo, play action, finds Cooper Burton on the left side. Burton breaks the tackles and scores it in from 86 yards out. 28-point quarter puts Missouri Western up 38-4. Hayes scores in the fourth, but it wasn't enough as Missouri Western walks away with a 38-31 win.
Central Missouri traveled to Topeka, Kansas to face Washburn, and the Ichabods wasted no time putting points on the scoreboard. Ichabod quarterback Mitch Scherg found a streaking Peter Apple down the sidelines, connecting for a 30-yard passing touchdown, giving Washburn the early 6-0 lead. UCM would respond, however, as Chris Diddle lines up a 27-yard field goal and splits the uprights, cutting the Ichabod lead 6-3. Receiver James Letcher tried testing his arm, heaving the ball 35 yards, but Mules Brian Atkins came up with the interception. Moving into the second quarter, UCM's Kyle Bradley felt the pressure of the Washburn defensive line, chucking the ball into the air, where Ichabod's Marquise Manning intercepted the ball in stride, evaded a tackle in his own end zone, and returned the ball near the middle of the field. Facing a 3rd and goal from the 15, quarterback Logan Tweehouse gets flushed out of the pocket, throws back to the middle of the field, and connects with Kobe Wilkerson. The Mules would take their first lead of the night, 9-6. After a fake handoff to Apple, the ball is thrown to an awaiting James Letcher on a wide receiver screen, who uses the beautiful blocks by his teammates, racing 65 yards to regain the lead, 12-10. To close out the half, Cameron Lake boots a 48-yard field goal, extending Washburn's lead, 16-10. 7 minutes into the third quarter, Scherg takes the snap under center, fakes the handoff, and finds a sitting Matthew Simmons in the back of the end zone, pushing the Ichabod lead 22-10. Cameron Lake continued his onslaught of field goals, this time from 40 yards out, tallying more points, with Washburn now leading 26-10. And to close out the matchup, Lake attempted his shortest field goal of the night, connecting from 32 yards out, giving Washburn the 29-10 victory. Looking at Thursday night stats, UCM's Cody Bell had 9 tackles, Washburn's Matt Shrug was 19 for 34 for 249 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also, Washburn's James Letcher Jr. had 4 receptions for 78 yards and 1 touchdown.
Here's a look at the standings heading into today's games.
You'll notice Lincoln and Northwest records didn't change because their Thursday night matchup was ruled a no contest because of COVID-19 protocols on the Blue Tigers team.
Washburn is the first team to 2 wins. The Broncos, Lopers, Gorillas, and Hornets all look to join them at 2-0. Missouri Western sits 500 at 1-1. Northeastern State and Missouri Southern battle to avoid 0-2 today. Fort Hays and Central Missouri will both look to rebound next week against Lincoln and Northwest respectively.
We've got a great lineup of games for you today around the MIAA, and we start with the MIAA Offensive Player of the Week, who goes up against the Nebraska-Kearney Lopers.
We're here with the Offensive Player of the Week for Week 1, Pittsburg State quarterback Mak Sexton. So, Mak, thank you for joining us this week.
Yeah, good to be here.
So it was a big performance you had last week against Central Missouri. You had those 4 passing touchdowns. I have to imagine you had a pretty good pregame meal. What's your usual pregame meal usually, and does the coach kind of have any sort of effect on that?
Yeah, we had the pregame meal at our hotel right before the game. It's usually something like spaghetti or chicken and some greens on the side. So pretty carb loaded, but pretty simple.
That sounded like a pretty carb heavy meal. So it sounded like it worked out for you. So you have your home opener this week at Pitt State, the Jungle. It's one of the most legendary field settings in Division II. First time playing there in 2 years. Just what's that energy like in that stadium? What's it going to feel like going back there for the first time in almost 2 years?
Yeah, we can't wait for it. The fans are excited. We've been hearing the buzz around town, how excited they are. I think it's going to be either close to full or completely full. But yeah, not having a crowd in 2 years, people are pumped, and we're ready to get in front of the people in the Jungle.
Yeah, I can't imagine you need much of a pep talk for that game. I'm guessing you guys can be ready to go.
Yeah, we'll be good.
All right, sounds good. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Mak. Best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Pittsburg State takes on Nebraska-Kearney today, and for the Lopers, it's a chance for Josh Lynn's squad to start the season 2-0.
I am here with Coach Josh Lynn, that is the coach for Nebraska-Kearney. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm great, man. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. So I have some questions for you. We're going to start off with your team was supposed to kick off at 7 p.m. Your last game, but inclement weather pushed that back nearly 2.5 hours. So how did you control your team's eagerness to play after you guys haven't been on the field for 657 days? And how did you keep them focused at the task at hand?
Yeah, everything that you do during a game day leads up to the game time. And, you're kind of scheduled and regimented and trying to get your kids' best performance. And then you have a lightning delay. And, it was a pretty good one. And I think it ended up lasting about 2.5 hours. The big thing with us is we just tried to stay loose. We tried to get our kids moving around a little bit. And obviously you just don't want them on pins and needles up for 2.5 hours before a football game. So we just tried to keep them relaxed. And then, 30 minutes before, try to get them back locked in and get them out and ready to play a football game.
And they did. They played a heck of a football game, and especially TJ Davis. He continues his impressive career for you guys, accounting for 630 yards and 14 touchdowns over a 4-game winning streak that has stretched over the last 657 days. And on Thursday, he tallied 139 rushing yards for 3 total rushing touchdowns. So I guess, how does his versatility expand your offense, and how hard is it for opposing teams to not only prepare for a player like him, but to try to stop him?
Oh yeah, and it's the one thing about TJ is he's good with his arm, he's good with his legs, he's he works inside the offense, and I believe he's one of the most dynamic football players in Division II. I really believe that, and it's really hard to prepare for, just in the fact that we try to do something different offensively with him we run him quite a bit. We try to be, we don't make, we make no bones about it in regards to, we want to be more different on offense as it comes to offensive scheme than anybody else in the conference. It gives other teams another look that they got to prepare for. That's a little bit, maybe a different look than they see every week.
And that's a great player to have on your team, because like you said, you can switch it up quite a bit, makes it hard for opposing teams to stop that. Let's go to your defense now. We saw your team's first shutout since October 12th, 2019. You guys were able to hold the Lions offense to only 124 rushing yards and 60 passing yards, which is the second fewest yardage total in the MIAA era. Just kind of talk about your defense's ability to step up all game and keep Southern from tallying any points.
Yeah, and I think Southern did a good job, especially early in the first quarter of they had some good schemes. I thought our coaches on the defensive side of the ball made great adjustments, as well as our players maybe adjusting to the speed of a game, a game type scenario that we had, obviously we hadn't done in a while. But I thought we made good adjustments in the first quarter, and really through the second, third, and fourth, we played good, solid defense. So we tackled well, and I really believe our defensive front controlled the line of scrimmage.
And then kind of looking at the upcoming game for you guys this week. Last year, your team made a last-minute stand to hold off Pittsburg State 31-26, and now you're heading back to the Jungle to take on Pitt State team that opened with a win over Central Missouri. The Gorillas are 23rd ranked nationally, and it's their home opener. What are some of the things you're working on to secure a win in a tough environment like Pitt State?
Well, it's first and foremost great football team. They've done a really nice job. Coach Rice done a good job the 2 years he's been there. They've got really good offensive skill players, as well as Mak Sexton, their quarterback's doing a good job of getting the ball to those guys. And then defensively, you'd think they'd be young, being a new staff, coaching staff, but that's not necessarily the case. They're playing with I think they're playing with all but one senior in the secondary. Salamea and their inside linebacker's been a 4-year starter for them. And this is a really good Pitt State football team, and it's a really good MIAA team. And the Jungle's always a hard place to play, especially on opening nights for them, especially after a COVID year, and especially after coming off beating a Central Missouri team that was ranked.
And so what are you hoping to see out of your team this Saturday in Pittsburg, Kansas? And how can this game set a tone for the rest of the season?
They're all big games. What I will say is I believe that Pitt State's a good physical football team. I think we're a physical football team, and I really think the team that's the team that tackles the best on Saturday night will have a huge advantage. And I also think the big play strike by both teams, hopefully we can eliminate it and take away some of their deeper threats with their receivers.
All right, Coach. Well, it's good talking to you. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to get this interview in with me, and good luck Saturday.
Thanks, Calvin. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Have a good one.
3 games on the schedule today. Northeastern State heads to Missouri Southern. Nebraska-Kearney heads to Pittsburgh to face the Gorillas. And Central Oklahoma plays the Emporia State Hornets.
Lots of questions came in after the Northwest Lincoln game was ruled a no contest because of COVID-19 protocols.
And on Chris Roush's MIAA Monday, Commissioner Mike Racy explained the reasoning for the ruling.
What's next? Because it's been worded as no contest and for a lot of different reasons, probably more than anything else. Northwest isn't looking for a makeup game this week, but what is the difference with cancel compared to no contest, and what's all going into how the MIAA is looking at these COVID-19 games this year, and as well as the NCAA for that matter?
Yeah, so our policy is really consistent and perhaps driven by how the by how the NCAA views these games that don't get played. I know there's been a lot of noise by the Big 12 Conference, the Southeastern Conference, a lot of Division I conferences that are declaring a game like this where a team can't play because of COVID. They're declaring it a forfeit, and they're giving the team that can't play a loss and the team that was available a win. And I guess that works for conference standings, and you can treat a forfeit as a victory or a loss, but the NCAA doesn't recognize it. The NCAA looks at any contest that's not played as just a no contest, neither a win nor a loss, and our policy is consistent with that. Our policy is really very similar to what we had in place last year for basketball, and that's that we'll take a postponed game and try to reschedule it if possible. So a game that's postponed in volleyball and soccer this fall that needs to be rescheduled, perhaps we have a shot to do that. And if we don't, then it will be deemed a no contest, and just as if it wasn't scheduled, neither a win nor a loss. Right now the Northwest Lincoln game is officially postponed, and I think there's a great likelihood that game will not be rescheduled or made up. There's no room in the current schedule to do that. There's not an off week. We're not going to play 2 football games in the same week. But if, let's say week 8, if Lincoln's opponent and Northwest's opponent both are unable to play because of COVID, we would match up Lincoln and Northwest to play that game and allow both of those institutions to get that game that we weren't able to play in week 2. So, it will likely be a no contest, a game that doesn't result in a win or a loss, but we have to say that all things are open and possible during a crazy year like this when anything can happen, and be prepared for these disruptions. But yes, the athletic administrators, I think we have a very good policy that we're going to try to reschedule games when we can. And if we can't, at the end of the year, it's a no contest, neither a win nor a loss. We took into account, and I think this was announced last week, that we are not going to go by winning percentage for any of our fall sports on determining our conference champ if there's an uneven number of games. We are using a weighted scheduling index, and 80% of the weight for that index to determine standings and seeding will be based on winning percentage, and then 20% is going to be based on how many games you complete. So obviously the schools that play more games are going to have an advantage in that index. So, I'm not sure how the index would play out, but a school that only gets in 6 games, it might be 6-0 in football. If we have a school that goes 10-1 because they played 11 football games, that index is going to determine that 10-1 team is our conference champion and not the 6-0. Whereas if we went by winning percentage, the 6-0 team would have been the conference champion. So we have that weighted index that we're using in our fall sports, including football, that will help us, reward the schools that get more games in, and certainly reward the schools that do have the best winning percentage as well.
Looking ahead to next week's games, Northwest Missouri will be back in action Saturday after not competing last week, traveling to Warrensburg to take on Central Missouri at 1 o'clock. Also at 1 o'clock, Washburn heads to Ron and Carol Cope Stadium to take on Nebraska-Kearney. The evening showcases 2 matchups. Pittsburg State will go south to battle with Northeastern State, while Emporia State will face Missouri Western and St. Joseph. Both games kick off at 6 o'clock. And the nighttime games start at 7 o'clock, with Missouri Southern taking on Central Oklahoma in Edmond, and Lincoln in action against Fort Hays in Hays, Kansas.
That will do it for MIAA Saturday. We look forward to seeing you again here next week.
Be sure to follow us across our social media platforms and catch all of the MIAA action on the MIAA network. I'm Calvin Silvers.
And I'm Harry Loomis. We'll see you next week.